And we're back. Camp Dolphins All Access opens up as Dolphins training camp officially opens up. Mike Cunio, joined by the voice of the Dolphins in the preseason, play-by-play man Steve Goldie Goldstein. Goldie, let's talk about what we saw, what we heard from the Fins today. Your first just kind of general overview of day one.
Well, it seems like year two under Mike McDaniel, from what was said, just a lot more comfort level.
Yes.
There's no learning curve here. Everybody knows what to expect. From an offensive standpoint, obviously it's the same system that's changed on defense, but that's the real thing I gathered, Mike, is that everybody just has such a comfort level and is really, hopefully, and ready to build on what happened last year. And from the players talking, there just seems to be a supreme confidence, not only in themselves, but in the system, and maybe more importantly for any team, the guy to their left, the guy to their right, all these guys are very confident in their teammates.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because Tua said that. It felt more of like a continuation from year one as opposed to just starting over. They're straining on new things. They're not straining to learn the offense, not straining to learn who Mike McDaniel is. They're straining on other aspects of their game to get better. All right, let's talk about some of the positions we noticed out there because everyone's going to want to talk about the corners and the wide receivers and the quarterback. But for you, what were you keying on today?
Well, first off, Kendall Lamb was the main guy taking Teron Armstead's spot.
Right.
We should say Teron Armstead is on the PUP list to start camp. I actually think it's a positive because he doesn't need training camp. He was working a little bit on the side, so that's good news. You had Eichenberg at left guard, so that offensive line, 4 of the 5 components minus Armstead were intact, and Austin Jackson got through the whole practice. That's good news, that right tackle spot. But I look at that secondary, and Mike, you were there when we last left this Dolphins team in January in Buffalo. I think they lost that playoff game. I know people talk about the quarterback and the plays getting in, but I just thought that secondary was so depleted. They had to pick guys up off the street. And I'm watching it out there today. You got Ramsey, you got Howard, you had Kohu in the slot. Nick Needham isn't even playing. You had that depth.
Right.
And Cam Smith looked good for a first practice for a draft pick. And then you go to safety. Your guy, Elliott, who I know you're expecting big things from, he's out there with Javon Holland. Brandon Jones is back healthy. So I look at that secondary, I look at the talent level, and now the depth. And I thought that was a big factor in the way last season ended. And it's nice to see, at least for now, on day number 1.
Brandon Jones said being out here returning from that ACL injury was kind of emotional. We hadn't seen him on the field since last year, since he tore up that knee. Again, adds to that depth because now him and Deshaun Elliott are going to be fighting for a starting role. And if one of those guys is your backup, you got to feel that you're like in a good position. I did like what I saw out of some of the wide receivers today. Saw Tyreek Hill break one down the sideline. Saw Jalen Waddle catch a ball over Javon Holland and Deshaun Elliott as well. It was good to see them. Good to see them in a rhythm as we go forward. All right, you did mention the injuries. Teron Armstead, he was off to the side. We saw him, so that's certainly a good thing. I want to swing it back to head coach Mike McDaniel. For a year or two out of him, Tua said that he thinks this offense can be dangerous. Do you think Mike McDaniel's kind of licking his chops at what he has out in front of him in terms of a roster that seems pretty complete?
Yeah, I think he's been a mad scientist for the last 6 months. I mean, he said publicly he wakes up in the middle of the night and some play pops into his mind. Then you throw Devon A-Chain in there, and obviously a receiver, Robbie Chosen, Braxton Berrios come in.
Yeah.
A couple of players that have had some success in the NFL, and they're behind the 2 big guys. So, yeah, there's no question about it that Mike McDaniel has all these weapons. He doesn't have to teach anybody except, the new receivers. They can pick it up quickly. As far as the quarterback and the main wide receivers, this is all old hat. They know the language. They talked about it. He talked about it this morning, Mike McDaniel, and remember talking to him last year during training camp how the language had to be picked up by the quarterbacks, and after a while, Tua was starting to even add to the play calls at times. All that's out the window now. Tua knows this thing like the back of his hand. He's got command of this offense. And yes, with A-Chain and some of the new guys and obviously the impact players they already have, Mike McDaniel's got a smorgasbord. It's a big old food buffet. What do I want to eat? What do I want to put on my plate? I'll come back for more. It's going to be pretty fascinating to watch.
All right, this was just day 1. We are just scratching the surface. There's still a lot of positions to get to.
And it was cool today on day number. Can you believe that?
Nice and overcast.
You're not even sweating, Cunio.
Neither are you.
I got a little sweat going on the head, a little bit.
We're looking good. We're looking good.
I'll redo my hair for day 2.
Okay.
How's that? I'll do that for you.
Yeah. look, keep it overcast. I think we'll be fine. We're going to continue Camp Dolphins All Access, remember, throughout training camp. So we'll get, if we didn't get any positions today, we'll certainly hit on them. But today I thought was a good day one. Everyone seemed comfortable. Everyone seems happy to be back in the building, not just Goldie and myself to be back in football. But for Camp Dolphins All Access, that's Steve Goldstein. I'm Mike Cunio. We'll see you tomorrow.